Welcome to Chanthangeli Art, home of Nothero the Cryptwalker and SPRINGBALL, available in the link below. We come to you live from the heart of Lovecraft country, and we would like to take this moment to ask you to do us a favor.
If you could please hit the like and subscribe button located down below, it would be most appreciated.
Quite right, Mother. Thank you for your thoughts on this matter. We do hope you will join us for the rest of the episode, and if not, do hit that like and subscribe button. It would mean the world to us.
And now, on with the show.
You're now entering the domain of paint and canvas. The only limits are those of the imagination. New possibilities will emerge with every brushstroke, and the paint thickens.
From the heart of Lovecraft country and the birthplace of American religious liberty, my name is Chanthangeli. You're watching Chanthangeli Art. How's everybody doing on this fine Sunday? Welcome to the horror of painting. I'm going to be doing some painting today on something I've been just doing for fun and exploring some genre stuff. So let me see who we've got here in the chat. We've got Scribe Comics. What's up, Scribe Comics? How are you doing? Corey Landis is in the house, and he says he is giving a lawnmower a break. Lots of wildflowers blooming here in Michigan. Yeah, we've got a lawnmower situation happening here as well. So I feel your pain there with that. Yeah, you got to give them a break. Sometimes they can get into a bit of a mess. Yes, we are here. What is up, channel member Infamous Mr. Cursed? It's great to see you, my friend. So, yeah, guys. So one of the things I've been doing and one of the things I've been thinking about for this show is so all week long I'm working on SPRINGBALL, and I'm working on, getting the Nosfero books bagged, talking to the printer because I need some copies replaced and all this other stuff. Tons of craziness going on. And when I sit down and I think about, okay, well, what do I want to paint? What do I want to work on? The biggest problem that I run into, or I should say, what do I want to do when I give myself a little bit of time off, which is almost never. What do I want to do with that time off? And the problem is that what I like to do to relax is also what I like to do for work. So that's the thing I've been running into. So where a lot of the stories I come up with and a lot of things I do come from is that, time period where I go, all right, I got to work on something and have people see it. What do I want to work on? So I'm going to show you something I'm just messing around with right now and walk you through the process of what I've been doing. I think I have shown some versions and some ideas of this before, but I've decided to kind of really just, sketch it and try to do something that's in a little bit more of a raw and painterly style. So I am going to remove myself from here so you guys can see the workspace a little bit better. And do hit the like if you have not yet, and welcome. Share the link out, and let's do what we do here. So this is a story that I've been playing around with and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with for a little while here. Let me adjust this a little bit more. What's the best view I can give you guys? Here. So this is a story that I've been working on and developing for some time that takes place in Egypt. And so I love, when I was a kid, ever since I started watching, oh my gosh, action-adventure movies, all of that kind of stuff, old horror movies, I've been obsessed with the aesthetics of 1920s Egypt, 1930s Egypt, all of that stuff. What's up, Grifter Surfer? How are you doing, man? It's great to see you here. And one of the things that interests me about it is just back when it was this kind of, exotic landscape for movies, and we had unearthed, King Tut's tombs, and it was like, what are we going to do, and what does all this mean? All of that stuff. Yes, indeed. Yes, Spaceman, you did. Yeah, I'm actually got to my stream late today because we've just been running around like crazy. We're like a one-armed paper hanger up in this place, and it has been something. So I started collecting reference of what I wanted to do, and I started thinking about what I wanted to do with it in terms of what genre I wanted to explore, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But there have been a lot of conversations that artists have from time to time of, okay, well, what could we do in comics, or what could we do, with genre and all of these kinds of things. And I'm a big believer in exploring genres from the standpoint of, what's not being done? What are we not seeing? And by the way, happy Sunday, Spaceman, as well. And one of the things that I kept coming back around to when I was working was I wanted to explore... Sorry, I'm just looking for my proper reference. What's up, Shadowhawk Talks? How are you doing, my friend? It's great to see you. I've been exploring, different, locations, different places, and where I want to go in stories and where I want to take people. And the place that I kind of keep coming back to, and the things I keep coming back to, have been really fun. And the one that is I keep coming back to is when I see comics right now, and I see what we're doing and what's possible. You notice there's a lot of this kind of stuff here. I promise when I post this stuff on my Patreon, I'm not going to have these tags here, but YouTube has different rules, and my Patreon is set for adults like 18 and older, so I don't worry as much about it. I mean, I've had that thing forever, and so it's nice to be getting back and using it. So one of the genres I've been thinking about, one of the things I've been hearing is people always have talked about for a long time. It's been kind of a buzz sort of expression of, oh, well, we need to get more people reading comics. We need to diversify our readership. What is up, Eric Weathers, my lettering man? How you doing, man? I saw your latest video. I was very excited to see you back on YouTube, man. It's great to see you. And what's up, Glass Machine? Yeah, it's true, Corey Landis. That's what I do. And Eric is a member of that Patreon, so he's going to be seeing this stuff unvarnished, as well as some other stuff I'm trying to get posted on there right now. I just have to scan some books in because I want to share some reference stuff. So I started thinking about genre. I started thinking about Egypt. I started thinking about the kinds of stories that I want to tell and what I haven't done stuff with, but I've always wanted to. And so when people talk about comics and they talk about, oh, well, we want to have, more women reading comics and we want to do this, we know, at least I believe, that they don't mean it. I believe that is something that they say because of the certain beliefs they have. It's the idea for people to advance their editorial careers because they're going to then pivot to, well, only women understand women and only this, that, so we need to get rid of these guys. And it never seems like it's genuine. And it never seems like there's any real interest in making entertainment that a lot of people would enjoy and would like to read. And so I was sitting here and I was thinking about, the busiest man in CG, you ain't kidding, man, when it comes to our Eric Weathers. So I was sitting around and I was thinking about it, and I go, from the things I know about manga, comics, and life, and movies, and film, and entertainment, none of the stuff that people are making right now, that in this country anyway, that supposedly caters to a particular audience, actually does. Most of this stuff doesn't at all. And I have a hypothesis. I have some hypotheses that that you can say here. My wife likes a lot of the comics I do, but she's weird. She doesn't want them catered to other women. Yes, indeedy. Yes, indeedy. And what I would say to that as well is when you look at people who did expand things, like Chris Claremont and a lot of the writers of that day who did some incredible work, one of the biggest things they included in their comics is something that you don't see a lot of, but always appeals. Interpersonal, romantic, heterosexual relationships between men and women. That's what American comics have not given us for ages. And I sat down and I started thinking about all of the entertainment I watch and all of the stuff that I see going on in pop culture. And I always have said to myself, we need to make comic books that actually talk about relationships between people and are sexy and are fun and are silly. And so I've wanted to do for quite some time a really fun, sexy, adventure, comedy type comic book. But not really comedy, like more my kind of comedy, dark kind of comedy. And what I've kind of realized is that people don't know how to write relationships. And they don't know, oh my gosh, I mean, we could write this could be like a never-ending stream if we cover this, but people don't have game, they don't know how to get game, and they don't know how to write romantic characters, sexy characters, but not in ways that are, how do I put it? Not in ways that are glib and cliche. That is incredibly difficult to do, but it's an enormous audience out there that's untapped. And I always think that the comics you read when you're young teach you a lot about life, and they teach you a lot about relationships, and they're not supposed to be, just boring lectures about things. And so when I started looking at, and I've been a fan of European comics for a long time, I started looking at the kinds of things that people do, and I'm like, you can't expect the audience to change, or at least the audience to grow or develop, when you only do the same kinds of things. What is it? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And so when I'm doing my work, what I decided I wanted to do more and more of, and this happens in Nosfero. If you've seen Nosfero, you know there's a romance element to it. There's a sexiness element to it. There's a monster element to it. So nothing really changing in that regard. But that's stuff that I think is very important because it's the spice of life, and it's the stuff that that people long for. They long to see relationships between characters. And one of the things I've been noticing is that not only are people not writing it, but people aren't living it, or they have a cynical view of it, so you can't find stories like that anywhere. And I just thought, man, that's crazy. So I wanted to explore the story that I'm doing right now. I wanted to start painting it just so that there is something that shows this idea that I've been playing around with for a while, and it is freaking hilarious. And you said something really great there, Corey. I love that my wife doesn't want the stuff catered to me, and I went, yeah, that's one of the secrets. That's one of the secrets that the American comic book industry, but the American entertainment industry doesn't understand. We write art for women. A lot of guys and a lot of... we won't even talk about people who are just bad writers, but a lot of editorial staff. They're that over-ingratiating kind of... They have that over-ingratiating nice guy approach to things that women absolutely can't stand. And when you have writers who write like that, it just feels like pandering, weak stuff, and it's utterly unattractive. And yes, you guys are incredibly, incredibly fortunate, as am I. It's good stuff. And what's really cool, man, is it's I'm always shocked because I think that what makes writers really great and what makes stories really great are the unexpected, the things that are, let's see here. This will be really interesting. This will be fun to talk about. So, at this tender age that I'm at right now, I've had a lot of experience with a lot of women who are friends of mine, family members now of all different ages, and it's like from my mother-in-law to my sister-in-laws and all that sort of stuff. You hear people talking about stuff all of the time and what this is about and what that's about. And you often see the same kind of complaint where it's like, it's the funniest thing. It's the opposite of what you're told, which is, just once, I don't want to have to come up with a plan for this. Have any guys ever heard that? Just once, I don't want to have to come up with the plan for this. I want you to come up with a plan for this. And yet, then we condition people with artwork and with stories to write men who aren't assertive, men who are incompetent. And I'm like, who likes this stuff and who finds this appealing? And based on the sales, it's kind of nobody. And I just don't think most people know how to even come up with a scenario where you could explore this stuff. And so I was writing this story and I was thinking about it, and I go, I want to bring back exotic locales. I want to bring back Will They or Won't They, and I want there to be just a little bit of sexiness and spiciness in the story, because that's what people want. That's what adults want to read. I mean, I've read, and even young people want to read. My God, man, you guys are I'm assuming you guys have been out in the world, and you may have picked up a manga or two. And I will tell you the weirdest experience I had when I was teaching, and I still can't get past this, is maybe you guys remember this. Let me know in the chat if you guys remember this. There was a Wonder Woman or Catwoman cover. There were two things that came out around the same time. One might have been the Wonder Woman Frank Cho cover, and the other one was a Catwoman cover or Batwoman cover where she looked like she had been, she was dead or something. I can't remember what it was. And do you guys remember that? So maybe I'm getting the characters wrong on that, but it was a big to-do in comics. A big to-do in comics. Let me know in the chat if you guys know what I'm talking about. Because I'd love to have the exact title. Because I can see the artwork in my head, and I remember everybody was like, arg, 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 and there was all this thought on it. There were opinion pieces written. People were affected deeply. And so I'm looking at, first I was looking at this Wonder Woman cover. And I'm like looking at it, and it's like, Frank Cho made Wonder Woman look however he makes everybody look. Right? I mean, I don't know. And it was really bizarre, and they were all like freaking out about it. And then I looked over at this one student who just like started the conversation when she came into the classroom and that day, and it was like, oh my gosh, everybody was like, oh my gosh, yeah, did you see that? All that stuff. A good manga is, you got it, a good manga is good, a good comic is good, execution is more important than style. We're going to get to that, but this is the weird thing that you may be surprised by, Corey Landis, because I was surprised by it. The book that I saw this student who was so concerned about misogyny and whatever else in the American comic industry, can anybody in the chat guess what manga was her favorite book? And that she loved, and it was like the greatest comic ever written? See if you guys can guess this one. I bet somebody in the chat's going to get it. And when I bet on my chat, I'm always right. Always right when I bet on my chat. Correct. So, Corey, would you like to tell me what's wrong with those two things? In terms of, do you see the problem with the through line there? Yep. That's right. And no, not that, although that is a great book, and that's a totally, great, romance, between this robot and this kid and his dreams. It's tragic as all hell. But yeah, it was Berserk. And I thought, so wait, let me ask you a question. And I said, what makes if you haven't read Berserk, and you don't have the constitution for it, perhaps, that's not the book for you. But if you want to, really get a glimpse of the artistic hypocrisy that we see happening so often here, I go, how is that okay to you for it to exist as art? But when it happens in American comics, it's not. And by the way, the same thing happened when Milo Manara did that sketch cover for Spider-Woman. And people just freaked out about that. The same kinds of people who will read things in manga that are way beyond what I'm talking about. Way beyond what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not saying that to put any of these other... I own Berserk. I've got volumes of it over there. I started looking at it when people were talking about it. So I actually have done my work. I'm not like, oh, the Berserk, that thing. And I looked at it, and I was just trying to reconcile that kind of hypocrisy. And what I realized is that it's time... From an artist standpoint, it's time to stop asking people if it's okay if you paint X, Y, or Z. Tell a good story. Yes, indeed. That's why you should back Springball if you still can. This Shanth guy, something else. Guys, speaking of, I like the interactions between people. I want to spoil a scene that speaks exactly to this point in Springball right now, Shadowhawk, and I'm going to fight that urge to do it. I'm going to fight that urge. But we've all seen movies that had these great moments in them that are fantastic. Oh, Berserk is just a wildly popular manga that unfortunately the creator of the manga died, as so many manga creators do, because they live a hard life in terms of hard drinking, hard smoking. I think his heart exploded or something like that. It was nuts. But Berserk is a multi-volume fantasy sort of sword and sorcery, curse, evil, demons story that is extreme mature readers. Scenes of everything that you can't talk about on YouTube in it is basically the way I would describe it. But it's wildly popular. Wildly popular. Yes, Corey. Thank you. Guys, I'm sure you can give me many other examples. People are selective in their indignation. 100%. Art, relationships, politics, pretty much everything. And there you go. We spend... The biggest mistake people make in relationships and in life, and I saw people make this mistake when they were teaching college, when they were teachers, is, and by the way, students did themselves no service by actually weaponizing this, is when you're so convinced what you do and you don't want to hear that you silence anything unexpected. You silence anything unexpected. And when I think about relationships, and I think about how people get together, what you want to do when you're telling a story is you want to tell a story with characters that play off of each other. So isn't there a guy with a chainsaw head? Yes, there is, by God. And by the way, that's creative freedom. Whether you like it or not, the fact that it exists, and I haven't read it, and I think Ethan read it and he wasn't wild about it, but it's not the point. The fact that it exists shows that we've got to stop making comics. Well, we're not doing it here, thank God, and God bless you guys for backing Springball and Nosfero. I've been packing Nosfero books forever, and I had to go to my printer and say, I need you to reprint a lot of these books because the shipping, they got damaged, and I don't send these out, and they were very apologetic, and we're going to get that sorted, so that's just another one of the headaches. But how do I put this? If you have to ask them, your audience, or put it this way, if you have to ask a committee to figure out what creativity and romance is, then you don't understand romance. And guys like to see guys being guys, women being feminine, and also the wildness and the silliness of how people get together. So let me tell you what this story is right now. Yep, there's a guy reborn as a vending machine. You can't say it any better than that. And I feel like that might be my future. Simply Green, it's great to see you. I haven't read it, but it looks pretty cool and probably a bit gory. Here's the thing that drives me crazy, okay? I would say I could pull my hair out over this, but I've probably done enough of that in my life. All we hear about in American comics, I don't care about anybody's background. Do you have talent? Are you creative? Do you work hard? And also, are you okay with not policing other people's work? That's a big one. Do you support free expression? Do you support all of the things that are important? But we talk all the time about where are the female creators in comics? Where are the female like this? We need more women. And there have been some great female creators in comics, but we talk about that all the time. And then I look at it and I go, two of my daughter's favorite manga that she got into were Attack on Titan, and then, of course, a big one I know Shane and Yanzi are into, which is Demon Slayer. And if I'm not mistaken, both of those have female creators, but they don't even want that out there. It's nuts, you know? Yeah, maybe, don't know if he's unlocked that one yet. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's one of those. You got to do it. You got to do it. Yeah, pretty cool, but probably gory. Yeah, I'd hope so with a name like Chainsaw Head. So I'll tell you what this story is about and what has inspired this kind of story that I'm working on right now, and see if this starts to make sense to you guys, or see if what I'm saying kind of makes a little bit of sense here with it. And you guys can see as I'm working, by the way, if you haven't hit like on the stream, make sure you do, guys. We got 31 people watching, non-likes. It always helps when you guys like a stream. It has been brutal with YouTube lately. Very brutal. I have no idea what's going on with it, but, you know, it's YouTube being YouTube. But the story is really simple. One of my favorite movies of all time, or favorite two movies of all time, are Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein and the Wolfman, and Abbott and Costello, Meet the Mummy. I love those two movies. And funny enough, I went through a period where I was watching Abbott and Costello meet the Mummy a lot. Absolutely a lot. Yeah, it was creepy. And also it was inspired by the work of the painter Goya, which was amazing. Amazing stuff. And so I was watching those movies a ton. And I was checking out that stuff like crazy. And I was like, going, oh, I love Abbott and Costello. One of my favorite things about Lou in all of those stories is Lou's a little bit of a ladies' man. And, he does all right for himself. And there's a funny aspect to it. He's like this soft, romantic guy, but he's also a total goofball. And I love the dynamic between him and Abbott. Just what an incredible guy. Bud Abbott, Lou Costello, just incredible people. And so I started sitting there and I started writing on this idea for a while. And I said, I want to have a story I write, because I had this character I've been working on for a while that is in the Monster Art book for any of you guys who got that way back in the day. And that one is, the final copies of that are going to be going out with this Nosfero campaign, my Rigor Mortrex book. But I had a story that I was playing around with that had the mummy holding up a sort of Egyptian, sorry, not the mummy, a Frankenstein holding up an Egyptian mummy female character that kind of looked like Nefertiti, and it was said the mummy's womb, and she was pregnant, and it was sort of like a play on words, but it was me also just thinking about the kind of funny stories I'd like to do and the kind of crazy stuff I'd like to do. And so I had this idea at a certain point where I couldn't get the story to come together, and I go, I want to put a Lou Costello character in this story with my sort of Frankenstein's monster character. And I started playing around with it, and the whole story just kind of started to evolve. And it's a play on an adventure story where you've got this character who is the nicest person on Earth, and you've got this giant, strong friend of his who's like cold-blooded, badass kind of guy, but like more in a funny sort of way. His backstory is very Herman Melville and that kind of thing. And I wanted to have this character who is this, I don't want to tell too much about her, but she's basically a very cold, cynical kind of person. And she finally kind of meets her match and has, in the monster character, and has to goes through a period of sort of disillusionment. And what I loved the idea was, what's up, Siege Perilous? Good to see you, man. Yeah, shocking and scary as hell. Yeah, 100%. It is serious stuff. I had a friend try to turn me on to it a few years back, and I loved the first few seasons. Seemed like it started to wander after that. Yeah, it's a bit, yeah. Western storytelling is a bit different from Eastern, different expectations. Absolutely. Hey, Shanth, I sent you my original Spring Ball. Would you sign them? Oh, that brings up something really good. I know it's a weird question. Here's the thing. I'm going to be at For the Fans Fest in October, and I will sign anything, the Harry Potter cards, anything that you guys are interested in having me sign. I will be signing there. So, yeah, if you're going to be at that con, I can sign them there. So, yeah. Maybe, I'll see if I can figure something out once I get through fulfilling Nosfero, because right now I'm, packed with stuff. I don't want anything to get lost in the shuffle. So, what my idea was and what my story was for this was, and it was sort of a little bit more European, a little bit more painterly, and a little bit more fun, is I wanted to use this really, as you can see, kind of epic, romantic, wild landscape of Egypt in the 1920s. Think, sort of what they were doing with Mummy, with the beautiful Rachel Weisz and all that kind of thing. And you've got this sort of tough female adventurer character who, finally sort of hits a wall in terms of, the kind of way that she's living her life. And she's sort of, she's a highly cynical character. She's got all of those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, it's night, as I always like to say. But at the end of the day, there's this feminine part of her that she's pushed down for reasons we're going to get into the story. Awesome. Sounds good, Spaceman. And she's pushed this part of her down, and she's confronted with this kind of dopey, lovable, non-cynical person, and who's the sidekick of this highly cynical, badass, dangerous person for whom she is absolutely no match. And it's what happens when cynicism meets sincerity. And the kryptonite for cynicism, I believe, is sincerity. And so the journey of the story are these, for me right now, in terms of what I want to write and what I want to do with it, is these two characters finding each other at a particular crossroads and seeing they're more capable than they thought they were as a result of what the other person brings out of them. And it's one of those things I see happen, at least in life, and where it's like fate brings two people together who you're like, what are these two people together doing? But it's really freaking funny and silly and crazy, and it doesn't pull any punches. I'm trying to think of how I would rate it. I'm trying to think of something I could compare it to. It's like a guy's version, or a more guy's version of... Nah, see, that doesn't even work when I say it that way. That doesn't work. I'll put it to you this way. I'm going to be showing you guys the process that I can, either on both my Patreon and here, just when I get a chance to work on it. Usually I'm working on other stuff. Working on the Nosfero and SPRINGBALL stuff. But it is writing characters and creating scenarios. I love the pyramids. This is so fun. How does one tell a lighter, more humorous story while relating it to darker subjects in subtext? You ramp up the intensity of the comedy, and you ramp up the... you bring a more adult, mature aspect to the interplay of the sexes, at least to me. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I feel like... I wouldn't even say we're trapped in PG-13. We're trapped in neurotic, neurotic middle school crap right now. And I think that adults are adults, and situations can be very funny, and European comics do it incredibly well in terms of they have the freedom to do it. So for me, how do you tackle more intense themes? It depends on what kind of intensity, but I would say it's the balance. It's how you put the flavors together, I mean, Luke Costello is a character who's incredibly limited in what he can do, because it's, he can do a few things, but he's it's a mainstream wide audience. That's not what I'm making artwork for. And I'm not making artwork that's cynical or dark, I want to do something that we're not seeing a lot of right now. And it's hard for me to explain what that is. Really hard for me to explain what that is. But I think that I'm not going to pretend like we need a conversational framework for how love and relationships work and the interplay of the sexes. That's the best way I can put it. You know what I mean? I'm so tired of the cutaways and that we can't show... Oh my gosh, you guys know what I'm tired that we can't show. There's two things. One's under this paper that we can't show. And I just go, this is ridiculous, because that's one of the biggest motivators that people have, is when they see someone of the opposite sex, right? 4th season of Blackladder does it. Yeah. Really good point. It can be effective to have a character using humor to deal with pain. Exactly. And it can also be effective to have a character who is sincere running into a dark situation, seeing the sincerity work, right? Oh gosh, yeah, Art Nouveau is what it's all about for me. Love the Art Nouveau influence in your art. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. So, I'll give you a really good example. There's a television series I've watched a few episodes of. It's not really my thing, so I haven't watched it, but I did watch a very lengthy interview with the author of it. And it's a book series and a television series, and people are going to know it because I saw it referenced on Cobra Kai in a throwaway joke. It's a show called Outlander. Do any of you guys know this show called Outlander? Stop me if you know this show. Do your wives know it, or do any of the ladies in the chat know it? That'd be a really good question to ask too. But I'm sure you guys do, because I think it was pretty big. It was on TV or on Netflix, so I bet a lot of people know it. There we go. Just drop it in color. There we go. My wife watched some of it. There you go. Let's see. I've seen Outlander over my wife's shoulder. There we go. There you go. Yeah. No, not the creature feature. This is a television show. Heard it of it, not watched it. Scottish time travel thing. Scottish time travel thing. And also a lot of physical interaction between men and women in that show, I think, is the best way I could put it. A lot of nudity, a lot of, whatever. But I saw it in passing, and I was like, whoa. And I made this offhanded comment, and then I was totally, totally backed up by the offhanded comment when I learned more about the show. Which is, I went, oh, hey, what's up, Cranberry Landers? Good to see you, brother. Yep. This is the one, you're close. This is the one where a woman from someone in the chat will probably know, 30s or 40s, I think it is, or 20s. Yes, I do say, Brian Lawrence, 100%. And welcome, channel member Cranberry Landers. It's great to see you, brother. And welcome, channel member Comics Cahoots. Yes, so they made the joke when, yeah, there's definitely some of the first, probably a lot of the middle. And then another, oh, what's up, Leighton Gay? I haven't seen you in ages, brother. It's so great to see you. Have missed you too, brother. It's great to see you. But a lot of female as well. But here's the thing. I saw it, and I've studied genre, and I used to talk about this a lot in academia, and you can see this in when the comic genre is doing its job. I go, oh, when I looked over, my wife's shoulder when she was watching this, I go, it's a bodice ripper. How many of you guys know what the term bodice ripper means, out of curiosity? Do any of you guys know what that term means? I feel like it's a dated term, but people should know what it means because it was a very popular genre in fiction, and it still works today. It's just kind of mutated into something outside of what we think of it being. It's a little bit more fetishistic now, I think is the best way I would put it. But it was that quality. The word, but not in that combination. Well, it's about what you think. Yes, we know Fabio around here. Yes, you do. Quills. Yeah, it's, gosh, what's a really good example of it, really? The best example is all the classic romance stories that were hot and steamy romance novels referred to throughout time. All women do, and most dudes, that's right. Yes, indeed. Romance novels, thank you very much. You guys know. You guys know the genre, right? So here's the thing. In the absence of that genre, you're going to get things that one of the most popular books of a particular time period, I think, 20 years ago or whatever, which is stuff like 50 Shades of Grey, which is less of that and more of the other fetishistic aspect of these things. But if you look at the history of these kinds of steamy romance novels, that's all Outlander is. And I think most guys would be, somewhat surprised if they read what was in these guilty pleasure books. And here's the other thing that I loved about it. The woman who wrote Outlander, and I want to I'm going to have you guys double check this. Harlequin, but more skin. I love the chat. Yes, that too. Romance novels, and yes, Harlequin, but more skin. So here's the thing I want you guys, someone in the chat, to do. Whoever has research skills, whoever's at a computer, you will be celebrated in Valhalla. Yeah, Harlequin did hard-boiled crime novels before they became famous for romance. Absolutely right. What did the woman who wrote Outlander? I absolutely found her fantastic. I watched a video interview with her and I was like, what did she do for a living? Or what was her field of study and what she did professionally before she wrote the Outlander series? Somebody look that up because I don't want to get it wrong. But I remember reading it and went, this is the kind of person who knows how to write this stuff. She's great. It will make you laugh if it's what I recall. Whoever goes and looks that up, you win an A for the day. Star for the day. No getting around it. No getting around it. And this is the thing that people are too dumb to figure out about where you're going to get some of the best stuff from. I guess mortician. I love that. That's great. A good friend of mine gave me her book she was reading. I think it was called Wifey. Yes. Yes. TV writer? Nope. Yo, we're getting close here. Getting very close here. Comic writer? Okay, now let me see. Now I gotta look it up. Oh, a former university professor with a background in marine biology and ecology, partially, but there was something else to her. I want to make sure I get this right. This was in middle school. Yes, John Lovitz used to have a skit about genre called Tales. Yes, I loved that. So great. Gold Key Comics. This was in middle school. I know, right? Everybody's pretending to be so naive and chase. Zoology. Yes, yeah, that's part of it. Diana. Yes. So let me just double check because there was something I saw that made me kind of laugh. But yes. Okay. Yeah, famous writer, and she's friends with George R. R. Martin, by the way. I believe he's in her social circle, if I'm not mistaken. They kind of came up writing together. And I learned all this stuff, different stuff about her, but I want to see, she lives in Scottsdale, Arizona, by the way. I don't know if you guys know this, but the heart of Bodice Ripper romantic, hot and steamy life is Scottsdale, Arizona. Don't get it twisted. With her husband, Doug Watkins, with whom she has 3 adult children. Was the founding editor of Science Software. Thank you, sir! Boom! Boom! If modern day comic book editors had their druthers, female editors, this is precisely the kind of woman that they keep out of the field. And that's the thing that I have come to realize about all of it. They are intimidated by people who are awesome. Here it comes. Let's just put that on screen one more time. I can't pronounce her last name. It's foreign, like mine. Galtron was the founding editor of Science Software Quarterly in 1984 while employed at the Center for Environmental Studies at Arizona State University. What the hell? Yep, she probably did. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Competent women are all around. I happen to be married to an extraordinarily competent woman. She's also totally feminine, and she also has no problem being girly. It's wonderful how that works. Intelligence is incredibly sexy. So here's the other aspect of her. So we've read that. We're like ecology, science, Science Software Quarterly. So she also, when you see her interviewed, if she doesn't like trains, and I think you know what I mean, if she doesn't like ceiling fans and have a touch of the tism, I would be blown away when she talks. She's like, and so I'm going to do an imitation of her. Love the internet. Isn't it great? Isn't it great? I'm going to do an imitation of her, and you can find this interview where she was in Scotland, I think, and they were interviewing her, and it was hilarious. Todd McFarlane was headquartered in Scottsdale, too. Yep, we got a lot of Arizona folks, guys. People don't pay attention. They call them flyover states. Yep, smart women are extremely sexy, and women who aren't and want to pretend to be smart hate them with a passion. And by the way, they're also more exciting in other ways in terms of their creativity and imagination. So here's a story about her, this author, and I'm going to do her voice for you guys, so bear with me, because her voice is kind of sort of like this, and when she talks like this, and this is what happened. She goes, so I was doing a interview with a French journalist, and I don't typically do a lot of interviews, and he asked me, he said, what was the appeal? Your stories seem to feature a lot of men who are wearing kilts, and what was that appeal of that visual image? And I said to him, well, for me, the fascination with the idea of a handsome man in a kilt is the fact that he could, have you up against a wall in a minute. And she concluded the interview, and she goes home, and her publisher calls her, and she goes, and a guy or girl, I don't know who it was, and said, I don't know what you said to that French journalist, but he is in love with you and can't stop raving about you. That's what we need to be writing. Stop writing love stories and romantic stories for lobotomized, dysfunctional, politically minded, in terms of, what's the word I'm looking for? People who intellectualize and view in power dynamics what should be viewed as playful, fun, exciting, and romantic. I can't stand it anymore. And if you are in a relationship, a romantic relationship, and you no longer know at any point in the relationship how to do a turn of phrase that makes your significant other blush in a good way, then you're not living. You gotta enjoy that aspect of things. It makes life fun. And what she did when she wrote that, because she's a good artist, is she made that French interviewer blush, so to speak, if that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And I feel as though when I look at the entertainment, it's a lot of people who are using... It doesn't matter who writes for who. It matters if you're writing for the audience. I don't write for whatever the hell I am. You know what I mean? I write for the sort of the human condition, the sense of play, all that stuff. And whether I succeed or fail, politics is not a factor in it. And I just cannot get over how completely dysfunctional and kind of puritanical this woke culture aspect is. And I hate using that term because it's such a buzzword now. And a lot of people are using it as a shorthand to kind of position themselves politically, but they don't understand what it means. Let's break it down into its simplest terms. It's authoritarian censorship. That's what it is. And people are less afraid of you showing extreme violence to people than they are showing a little bit of romantic heterosexual nudity. And it drives me nuts. I think it's ridiculous. And I think it's really, really bad psychologically for human beings developmentally. And it's great to look at the fact that so you guys are going to Google it, but I don't care because I almost love the fact that you guys would Google it. So when we talk about the idea of 100%, the New Puritans, yep, greetings, yes, and warm regards, dear friend, and to you too, Christopher Sheriff. How are you doing, brother? And happy Sunday. I love Outlander Book Series C. The audiobooks are fabulous. That's right. It's written by somebody who's smart. And here's how people who are creative like her solve a problem, and this is what I absolutely love. Edge Runner's got me, the music vid more so. There you have it. She said, yes, smart romantic stories used to be Hollywood stock and trade, and yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I'm paying attention to the fact that we're seeing movies right now and entertainment that is resonating with an audience because it's tackling these themes. It's not about what color palette you use, although color is very important to me with palette. It's about what words that you use. And romance, like comedy and also like terror, have very particular things in common. But with romance in particular, and comedy a bit, but romance is where it's the strongest. It's memory plus specificity is the key to romance. When you do something romantic for somebody, they say, oh, you remembered. And other people say, oh my gosh, that's so romantic. It's used everywhere. But it's like we've removed things like holding hands, and I'm not saying that that's what my interest is in doing. I'm not interested in doing the genre of romance comics. I'm really not. I'm interested in doing whatever genre that us statistic people do, that things like Outlander are, but I like the idea of bringing in comedy, like earnest comedy, like Abbott and Costello, that kind of thing. But also there are real stakes, because there are real stakes in love. And I think about that all the time, that if there's a way that we have been literally retarded in that sense, like stunted in that sense, it's in our language of romance. It's so policed. It's policed everywhere. It's policed at schools. It's policed in the workplace. It's policed everywhere. And in fiction is where you see people explore the things. Gothic romance is a perfect example. Perfect example. An artist who I was showing recently that a lot of you guys might know. I don't even know if I could show his stuff on this stream. I honest to God don't think I could. There was a painting in there where I was like, that is insane. I can't. How did someone paint this with a straight face? But it's Robert McGinnis. I don't know how many of you guys know Robert McGinnis. I have his book kicking around here somewhere, but the painting I would show you guys, I could only post, and I don't even think I will because I'd have to scan it in. I can only post on my Patreon. I saw it and I just laughed so hard. Me too. Listen, you're not alone. You're with friends, my friend. You know, yeah, language in general is policed. That's exactly right. If you tell somebody, if you tell, like, think about how nuts this is. If you tell a coworker, and I have never done, like, this has never been something I've really thought to do because I grew up in the whole insanity sort of stuff. But the idea of telling a coworker, oh, you look nice today. Oh, what's that mean? Oh, like, we got to talk to somebody. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And what's funny is, when I think about all that stuff, is that most of us aren't ever going to be told we look nice today. So it's a weapon to protect people when it doesn't apply to almost all of us, and it's nice for some of us to hear. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, I'm blessed. As always, my wife Nikki and I fall asleep holding hands like, oh my God, I love it, man. Christopher, I love it. Yeah, so here's what I love about New England. You guys will crack up when you hear this. Yeah, the South Korean horror movies are getting really good. Yes, they are, but here's another one. South Korean entertainment, which has taken a cue from these genres, also is doing romance very well and pop very well. Everyone in this chat looks amazing. I do. You all. Yes, see, that's right. Glass Machine. By the way, what is that? How is that? What has someone's life been if someone telling them they look good is the worst thing that ever happened to them? I got news for you, folks. If that's your bear to cross, as Adam Hughes would say, then what is wrong with you? You know what I mean? It's like crazy. I love Rob. He's so good. Egg Tempera painter. Crime novels and detective covers, but he also did romance covers like so many people did. That is, I used to say that to people at work. I got some double takes and also several smiles. Yes, indeed. You're all looking real jacked, baby. You guys know that's old school comics. I love it. There's no school like the old school, man. Love it. But it's such a funny thing that they took that from us. So guess what you hear? You remove that, so all that people hear is they see the opposite sex as adversarial, and it's designed to be adversarial. And at the same time, they've removed now your right to compliment people. So the only way you can interact with people is to tell them something negative or to report them to HR. And people wonder why there's so many single people out there. Or people wonder why people are so miserable. Because we let people legislate our interpersonal our interactions. And we even have them regulated in our art. Who wants to read that stuff? Who wants to look at that stuff? And who wants to live in that hellscape? Not me, guys. I do not. And so when you read Nosfero, there is some pulpish romance, which means we're going to see some skin. Laurel is going to, you're going to see a little bit of Laurel. But at the same time, there's nothing physical that happens in that comic book. It's very chaste in that way. And it's for a reason, because those two aren't going to get together in any type of way until they're married. That is one of the things that's a part to me of the type of story that story is. Is this type of story that story? No, but there's a reason for it. But in Nosfero's world, and not that I would particularly depict that, by the way, either, other than the standard, cut to a candle or whatever, because that's not what Nosfero is about. But there's aspects to them as a couple and the romance of it where he is physically attracted to her. And I wanted her to be physically attractive in the way a woman is physically attractive to a man. That was important for me to do. And I also want him to say the kinds of things to her that you would want to hear if you were a woman. because those are things that are the old sort of thing. So it's the well, HR is the head of the head of the PC snake. They are not there to help 100%. Yes, indeed, we do our best. Yeah, we're all working out. We're all looking good. South Korean horror, sci-fi, cop shows, romance, they do it also well. Yes, because they don't ask permission to do it, or they're using their money. So let's take a look at, talk about genres. And this is the thing I was scratching my head about in terms of how comic books are, American mainstream comics are a total failure at this point. They're a total failure in sales and everything else. But I want to hit them in a way, in terms of the failure, that is really brutal, and very, very true. The bodice ripper / what falls under, erotic fiction and all that kind of stuff, market is, now I want to look, oh gosh, I almost want to look it up because I haven't looked it up since, and I'm worried I'm going to get the number wrong. But I think it's a $2 billion a year industry. Let me say that one more time because I think this is kind of important, guys. $2 billion a year industry. Writing romance, erotic, sexy, fun, whatever, I don't know, I don't read them, stories. I mean, I think I've read one or two, like I probably read one, but it's I get it. You only need to read one to figure it out. And you think, and you're showing relationships between furry people and, same, what, relationships. And it's not a $2 billion industry. It's not saying it can't exist. No one's ever said that. But I think it's very clear people are saying that that $2 billion industry can't exist. Yeah. More than people seem to know. And it's embarrassing. The pretend aspect of this is really embarrassing. And we treat people, too, we treat adults like children, like they can't hear certain things and they can't see. I'm like, and then you see what people are looking at and you're just like, what on earth is going on? What on earth is going, like the cognitive, like that. And so let me bring you back to that student and that situation. I go, so you're trying to convince me that you have the internet, you read Berserk, one of the most graphic, mature readers is putting it simply, but every kind of horrific thing happens. I can't even get into it, but it's very intense. And you're saying to me all of a sudden you're a shrinking violet and you can't handle because DC Comics drew Wonder Woman a little thick or a little less covered up than you'd like? It's time to really call these people out. It's time to really call them out. Yep. Watch, is it Josie the Tiger and the Fish? I'm not sure if or Jossie, I'm not sure how I pronounce that, but yes. Yes! Exactly! There's actually a giant, realm of space between those two things. Do you guys get what I mean? Like, how did we go from 0 to that? There's no in between. It's nuts. Look at things like Twilight, which I know a lot of girls like and that kind of thing. It's like it's hugely successful and popular. That exists in that space in between for young readers. And it's totally about which guy does this girl want to pick. That's what they're always about. If you want classic erotic poetry, the Song of Solomon always works. Yes, indeed, it does. Yep. And I always will think of the Song of Solomon when I think of that line from Miller's Crossing when he goes, if I had known we were going to cast our words into feelings, I'd have memorized the Song of Solomon. I always just cracked up. It's so great. But it's like the biggest issue people run into in relationships that we don't really tackle anymore. I love having this guy. By the way, characters smoke pipes in my stuff too, by the way. That's another thing we don't allow for in any real meaningful way, where it's a character trait. But the thing for me about all this stuff is, and when you think about it, is the biggest issue is the fact that we were designed to be interested in each other to keep the species going. That's how we were designed as people. And the personality stuff and the understanding people who aren't like you is the problem. Like, the quote problem is the challenge. It's the game. Because one person could find somebody's personality type attractive and another person could say, I couldn't stand if I had to be in a relationship with that person. If that person's not for you, you're not for them, and maybe they wouldn't be into you either. That's not the point. The point is finding that person that makes you feel excited to be in a relationship with them, and at the same time is you feel that same way back. You feel about them how they feel about you, and it's a funny thing to watch people do in fiction. And when you see people deal with this stuff in fiction, it's easier for you. It's like you're building mental models for how this stuff works. And we have a very unhealthy relationship with some of the most important and foundational aspects of being a human being. And it's partially intentional, but it's also, just a fact of the more people don't know these things, the more they look for them. And it's why manga is even having to course correct, because it went too far down the other avenue. All about the charcoal. Yes, exactly. Manga's taught 3 different recipes for black powder. Yes, it is. It's true. Gotta have it. Gotta have it. His Majesty, the Demon King's housekeeper. Yes, indeed. And so I think that that's the issue that bothers me, right? Is that when you, like, to me, a movie like Titanic, which was, from a special effects standpoint at the time, was incredible. And of course, it was like this young romance. Romeo and Juliet was a young romance story. Think of everything that happened in it. Think of even Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet, by the way, which I remember we had to get a permission slip or something to watch it, if I recall. It was something it was hilarious, because there was a flash of nudity in it, I think, for like maybe a minute, which is kind of laughable when you think about it. And so you go into these classrooms and you go into these faculty meetings and things like that, and they tell you about, got to make sure if people are sensitive to this, sensitive to that. And then you go in and you'd go into a classroom, and some college student, some female student in many cases, would put up a piece of artwork that you were like, oh my God, what on earth did you just paint and illustrate? Like, I didn't say it aloud, right? But you see this stuff, and you go, and I'm supposed to be worried about protecting you. Someone should be protecting me. I didn't need to see that. By the way, Sean, your face cam, yeah, it isn't on. Yeah. I don't have it on right now because it's just a Sunday painting thing. I don't need to put you guys through that too much. I think Dr. Stone even touched upon adding a bit of sugar for oomph. Yes, that's right. Well, when we're talking cooking, that's how it works, right? You guys know. There's probably more advice on all this kind of stuff here than anywhere else. Like, it's great. But it makes me laugh because people are so much more interesting than the art that the people who are running these companies in the mainstream industry are able to make, and it's because they're not interesting. Like, the audience is starving for interesting stories. My daughter and her friends all went out to see, like a lot of people did, that movie Obsession, and they were all freaked out by it, but at the same time they all couldn't stop talking about it and liked it. And then I saw that Ethan had seen it, and I asked Ethan, I go, what did you make of it? And Ethan was like, oh man, it was good. I thought it was good. It was a solid B. And then John Malin saw it and went, whoa, that was nuts. That was disturbing. Hold on a minute. Yes, she was. She was a very early first crush of mine. I saw that in 7th grade, and I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely huge crush. And I don't want to illustrate or paint any of the stuff that happens in Obsession. People just want something that's real, something that's, interesting, something that is creative, and we're just, when we don't get it, it's like, of course stuff doesn't sell. Why would I go to artwork not to have escapism, not to have, and it's hard to write that stuff because you have to know a little bit about it. What makes the author of Outlander, based on her lengthy interview that she gave, that and Spawn, 100%. I'm down for that. I love Spawn. But what's Spawn about? That's a really great point. Yeah, one of the few good movies John goes out. Yeah, we love Spawn. But think about that. You brought up a great point bringing up Spawn. What's Spawn about? What was the Spawn pitch? It's probably, of the original Image founders, it's probably the most popular book. Most people know the book. Olivia Hussey was her name, and she died last year. I know, I think she died recently. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but it was, yeah. Spawn is a story about a guy who is killed and then sells his soul to the devil so he can come back and see his wife one last time. Romance. There it is. It's everywhere. People don't think about this stuff, but I think about romance in Spring Ball. I think about silly interactions and all this stuff in Spring Ball and Nosfero. And even though Spring Ball is, not a painted comic book, and it's not, got, the aspects of like female nudity per se, and the sense that it is in Nosfero, it's got that sort of playfulness that comics used to have. There were 2 scenes that were foundational to me, like when I was a young kid reading it, and I thought, oh, that's awesome. And both of them were in David Michelinie stories. And I wonder how many people remember these things. Let me see if I can find the book. Oh, gosh. Do I have the book where I can get at it? Oh, it's going to be somewhere impossible to get. Or it's going to be... Let me see if I... Do I have it? If I can't find it at a glance, I'm not going to bother. Okay. So there were 2... Yep, but the devil tricks him, of course. There you go. Gave up everything for a woman only to be tricked by... Yes, exactly right. That's the stories, right? So there was a scene in one of the Amazing Spider-Mans by David Michelinie where Peter Parker and Mary Jane are married. I know, God forbid, right? Those were such great stories. And Peter Parker decides to surprise his wife by wearing a bow tie and dressing like a waiter, but he's only in his underwear to surprise Mary Jane when she comes home. And she opens the door and she's brought a friend home with her. And she's like, "Hi, Peter. I wanted you to meet my..." And he's like, "Come with me to the Casbah," and blah, blah. And she goes, "Oh, I brought my friend home with me." And then he's like, "Oh, God." And he goes and runs in the room. And her friend goes, "He's cute." And Mary Jane goes, "And good for a laugh, too." And you totally get the sense that, okay, well, I guess these 2 are active, right? When we're not seeing them in the comic. And then there was another sequence that I love. Yes, classic marriage stuff and classic comedy stuff and really funny. There was another scene in Amazing Spider-Man, I remember, where Peter Parker's lost his job at the Daily Bugle. He's not making any money. Mary Jane is making a lot of money, and he's feeling very bad about himself. And think about this, like, these were in comics, right? As a married couple, he was like feeling really bad about himself, and she's like, "Well, maybe you could be a fashion photographer. Here, you can use me. I'm the best model there is." And she's like modeling for him, and he's like, "Yeah," and he goes, "I just feel stupid doing this. Like, I don't know how to be a fashion model." And she's like, "Oh, God," now he's getting even more upset. And it just shows her, and she undoes her top, and then it drops to the ground, and she says, "In that case, man of mine, how about we take some photos from our private collection?" That was Mary Jane and Peter Parker in the David Michelinie comics. Back before phones, when it would get on the internet and go nuts. God help them. Those were actual stories people wrote. And as a kid reading them, you were like, wow, wives are fun. Marriage is fun. Couples are romantic. It was so great. And that's what I mean. You go up to the... Yes, exactly. Refrain from... Yes, exactly. Yes. They've lost sight of that line. By the way, I'm for... Not in Spring Ball. Spring Ball is very much that. Spring Ball is very much... as far as comics would go ish around that time. Marvel goes further in some ways now or whatever, but I would say it's in that zone for right now. Yes! Wasn't it lovely that they got married? And when I heard all the things I heard about Spider-Man, like that they divorced. I think they even said that he hit her or something like that at some point, and I was like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. I was so disgusted when I heard about that kind of stuff. I was like, nope. It's not Peter Parker. That's not anything I want to read at all. I was like, what is wrong with these people? Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I was like, someone had told me that, like, they got in a fight and it got physical, and I was like, nope. Yeah, I was thrilled that they were married. And I, as a kid reading some of that stuff, I was like, wow, this is like awesome. Like, I want to be married. I want to meet my Mary Jane, which I did, thank God. Let me see. Cran reminded me of the classic wedding stuff. Yeah, heard both of those versions, not necessarily with a friend involved. Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's so much funny stuff like that. And oh man, there's a funny sequence in Spring Ball that I would tell you guys, but it would wreck it, and it's exactly like that, but it's modern. It's for what's going on now. I miss that stuff in comics. And I'll tell you something right now. that I believe in what is a theory of the books I'm writing. And I'm not doing it by committee, and I don't want... The only woman who's going to get input into my stuff is Mrs. Ingetti. That's the way that works. But, and I'm sure, I mean, if an artist I met and I knew, anybody could do it, but I mean, it's like Mrs. Ingetti is it. Like, that's the person for me when I write and draw that I run things by. And my brother Nick, too, by the way. But, I think femininity is awesome. And I think that feminine women are awesome. I think intelligent women are awesome. I think strong women are awesome. But they exist in a world of the kinds of women who championed the Salem witch trials. They're at odds with wicked women and wicked men, just like men are at odds with wicked women and wicked men. And there is nothing shameful about the physical attraction between men and women. Is not something that needs to be stigmatized like it is everywhere. And there's nothing that needs to be stigmatized about women being vulnerable and men being masculine and attractive to women. And I'm not going to write... The other stuff just drives me nuts, man. Just drives me nuts. You guys know this. It's like... But sometimes I look around and I just sort of think... Because you were saying this before, and I want to make sure I come back to this, because I loved this when you were talking about holding hands. When you said, "I'm blessed as always." My wife Nikki and I fall asleep holding hands like otters," said Christopher earlier. And I was thinking about that. And Mrs. Ingetti and I were walking to pick up the kids at school, and we were holding hands. We hold hands a lot when we walk anywhere. And this friend of ours, because we're in Rhode Island, drove past us slowly, rolled her window down, and went, "Like a couple of teenagers." And it always cracked us up, A lot of what you were talking about was injected. Yeah. That's not, to me, it's not, you're right, and it's not even a question. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah. It's the core foundational issue of all of these ideologies is people who want to play God in other people's lives and think they know the correct way for everyone else to live. Even when they say that's what they're against, that's what they're for. And when I make my artwork, the reason why I'm here, and the reason why I ended up where I ended up in life in general, like I'm always amazed by everything, but the reason why I'm in Comicsgate is because I'm always looking for the people who are going to let me make the kind of work I want to make and not get in the way of my interaction with people. That's really a big factor for me, which is I knew how to teach, and I was the best teacher everywhere I taught. And if any of my former colleagues are seeing this, you know it's true. And I was kicking ass, and I was getting it done. And then people who had time to form bureaucracies and all that other insane stuff made it impossible for me to work and started changing everything that was working. And as a result, they're on the verge of going out of business shortly. But they needed to be right more than they needed to have a job, I guess. And that's the poison that we're all fighting. Because I'll tell you a secret of something that all colleges are finding out right now, is that this ideal female utopia in colleges that has slowly made it impossible and unpleasant for men to be there, women don't want to be in them. Think about that for a minute. So let's stop defining, the feminist, the socialist, the male feminist for that matter. Let's stop letting them define how we depict and what we do in our artwork. Because art is not political. Politics is you can make political artwork, but politics is the enemy of art. It's where art goes to die. Because art is about the aesthetic and politics are about the didactic. And that is not at all what we're supposed to be doing with our work. And I'm just tired of it, man. I want to make cool stuff. I take my wife's hand every time we walk outside. She's, yep, absolutely. She is my person, 100%. The people you speak of have done so much damage that it's near impossible to have a good faith discussion. Exactly, yeah, on such anymore, which is why I don't believe in having discussions. I believe in just we do what we do by example, and we fight and stand up for ourselves when they try to stop us. So it's got moved to next week. next weekend, but I want to talk about this because this is really important to me anyway. And it's important if you support my artwork, guy. Hopefully it's important to you. But my friend Shane is going to be launching a crowdfunding site called Back Me Bro. That is a crowdfunding site that him and his wife, Yanzi, have built to make it easier for people who are creating under the freedom of what has been made here in Comicsgate, in this space. And they're put so much time, so much money, so much effort into it. And it was going to launch today, but they had to move something back because they want to make sure it's as perfect as possible. So it's going to be next weekend, next Sunday. And I'm going to be there for the launch of it. And what's amazing about it is this entire thing, this entire space that has led to Nosfero, led to Springball, led to all of this stuff, is about people standing up for the fact that we just get out of our way. If you're not going to do it yourselves, if you're not going to, if you don't want our money on X-Men, on Superman, on Batman, fine, but get out of our way and let us give our money to people who do want our money. Yep, hostile to ordinary humans and environment. Yeah, you know what I miss, and by the way, it's coming back. So guys, do not be doom and gloom. I have seen more and more. If you even look outside of your door, I live in I don't know how people always say, oh, it's a blue state or it's a deep blue state. We're talking about numbers of like 30 or 40%. Like, it's kind of weird to break things down that way. But I've watched in a very short period of time the return of couples holding hands, the return of, like, you see young people out, people trying to look feminine, people trying to like look like guys. There's a huge culture shock because people will only be miserable for so long, and the younger generation, Generation A, as I call them, and late Generation Y, are completely rebelling against all of that stuff because they just don't want to be miserable. They're like, I'm not doing this. And I think a huge factor in what made them like that made them very serious about that, were the lockdowns and not being able to be around each other. Yep, saucy banter between couples is feisty and fun. My grandparents were infamous for their conversations, 100%, Christopher. Anybody who's married knows, and there's my brother, Timothy Mello, channel member. It's great to see you, brother. How are you doing? Another artist out in this house. First rule for us is you can say anything if it's funny. That's very true. It's a big rule. Look, everybody's excited to see Timmy, man. That's the way it is around here. Thank you, guys. And hit the like if you haven't yet. It is always appreciated. If you're watching this on X, swing over to YouTube and hit the like over here on YouTube because it's always, always tough to have these conversations and let alone get them out there. But again, I mean, I'm happy with who shows up, and I am grateful for all of my backers. I cannot state that stuff enough. I want to show you guys stuff that's beautiful, playful, creative, and entertaining, and I want to make things. All you need to make a comic book, it's the only art form that really has this, is if you have somebody who can write, draw, paint, whatever it is, right? Whether it's perfect or not, you've got a comic book. The next phase is when you get a bunch of artists together, as we have here, and they can show each other's work, each other's work beforehand, and like go over things with them, and help if that's needed. And you've got people around them. We don't need them. The entire industry has been built over years and years and years on individual efforts like those of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and all of those guys. This is what we're doing here, guys. I really, honest to God, I want you guys to be excited. Yep. People voicing the truth, seeing examples of a better way of life, and seeing the craziness of the left's goals and methodologies. No, it's simpler than that. Kids in the younger generation will always rebel against what the previous generation was doing. Just remember, the 80s came out of the 70s, and the 60s for that matter, but the 70s in particular, when it was all androgyny and it was all that stuff. Like, we've done this 1,000 times. But evolution is very slow, and evolution knows what it wants. And it wants us to find each other. And it wants us to not just be miserable. Anybody can be miserable. And the idea, the big mistake that all socialism and communism makes, they have to use so much authority to keep it in place, is because it's having to suppress human nature. And so when you see people in editorial and at companies trying to suppress human nature, you should just say to yourself, I'm out of here. We don't suppress human nature. That's not what I'm interested in doing. And it's not even suppressing to me, it's embracing it. It's what art is about that. That's what art's about. And it drives me crazy. And so, yeah, this book's about human nature. This book's about all sorts of hilarious... But everything I do. Springball is. Nosfero is. It's so... Like, I'm... How do I put this? I think life is an incredible miracle, and I've seen enough death to have context for it. And I will always say that for me, the little miracles of life for me are the beautiful things that happen, the beautiful interactions that happen between people. And when I was coming up and when I was growing up, I experienced enough things to where I thought to myself, the worst possible outcome is the one that is the most predictable. Like, it's almost certain that bad things will always happen and things will just get worse and worse and worse. It's a great thing to come to that realization when you're like 7, 8, 9, 10 in that period where you kind of like bottom out with that stuff. Because if you touch bottom and then you push off of the bottom and you swim for the surface, which is basically what Nosfero's about. Nosfero's about a hero who does not let experience dictate to him what his worldview is. He doesn't let the nihilism win. That's why I say give nihilism no quarter. It's a cowardly thing to be to stop working, stop trying, and to stop being positive because you're the lone positive person around. You'll never see people who are cynical or nihilistic suffer that fear. They never have that fear. So my attitude is, women are beautiful, awesome. My wife is my favorite of all time on the planet Earth. That's the way that works. And I love all of the different ways that people find each other not at the time when they thought they were going to find each other, not the person who they thought was going to be the person, but the person who is the correct person. I don't think it can be manufactured. I don't think it's about perfection. It's about understanding human nature and being open to this life. And so when I make my artwork and I look at it, there's a deep quality to the aspirational storytelling I do because it's not naive, as much as people would like to say that being positive and having a hopeful view of things is about naivete. I will not cede that ground because it's total garbage. Let me see here. Nature and order always corrects as God commands it to be so. Disorder always finds its way to be weeded out and pruned eventually. It certainly does. And the goal is to not go quietly and not quit. I still have faith in the Brits, but some of the other ones. Yeah, well, here's the other thing too, right? I said this the other day. There was a cat from Scotland who was walking around Boston. He was falling in love with America, and my wife thinks it was probably social media blowback with a lot of these influencers. But either way, it's no excuse, and I don't think she was saying it was. But he then went on this rant at the last sort of stop he was at. That's like, and I know that America's got probably talking about ICE and Trump. This guy from Scotland, I'm like, dude, do you even like know what you're talking about? Like you're just suddenly getting political. And I was like, that's so depressing to watch somebody who was being such a real human being having an interaction go, quickly into the political aspect of things. And all I wanted to say in that situation was, listen, man, if it wasn't for us, and if it wasn't for the thing, like all of you guys need to be thanking America in perpetuity, you'd be speaking German. And I don't understand how you could look at the stuff that we're doing and look at us, like come here and see how great it is, have a great time and go, yes, but I need to throw, like you're here during this particular time. You don't need to talk politics. I'm just not about it, man. I can't stand that stuff. And I love Britain and I love Scotland and I love Ireland. I love all those places, but there's no need to go down that road for me. I'm not there. It's like, it drives me crazy. And here's the crazy thing about it too. Here's another crazy thing about it that drives me crazy about this stuff is that I don't know if he knows this, but I'm glad that he, but here's the other crazy part of that though, Glass Machine. Here's the other crazy part of it. He's free to say that here, as are we. Right? But he's not free to say the same thing there. And that's the thing that drives me crazy. People don't realize that we have that. We're so fortunate. And what made me kind of, I don't, and here's the thing, guys, he's allowed to say whatever he wants. He's not probably in his country, to be fair, but he's allowed to say things. It's not about that. It's about you showed a real human part of yourself and people reacted to it. And then you turned yourself into a mouthpiece for ideas that you're not making any sense. Like you're just like, it's like, oh, this, like they're all, they're buzzwords, and you suddenly reduced yourself to this like political cipher instead of this person who was being an individual. And that's what drove me crazy. And that's for every political thing. I go, we have history together as a country. And I was saying this the other day, one of the things I love about Boston the most is, and Boston culture, is that my favorite peoples on the planet are, I love the Irish people, man. I love the Irish people. I love their culture. I love their music. Like, I love all that stuff. I don't know why, but a lot of the rock bands I like. One of my favorite things on the planet. And I love their culture. It's really interesting. And Irish people don't mess around. It's true. It's the golden rule. Who cares about politics? Like, it's like there's so many funny things I think that we've lost in terms of what our understanding was of all of this stuff, right? We used to not need to care so much about what everyone else was doing, and maybe we could say it's about social media, but again, when I look at the history of the Salem witch trials and the gossip that led to all of that and all of that craziness, I just go, maybe it's just a part of the human condition. Maybe it's just a part of what we're about. But the idea that when we look at this stuff, that the best thing that you could possibly be is a mouthpiece for a particular ideology against a person that you don't know in a country that you don't know is really strange. Like, it's not something I would think to do. And I just go, our history is our history of doing things for people and having people go, you don't know what you're doing, and then having them have problems as a result of the things that we're doing is a problem. Free speech is a problem. If you don't have it, you should fight for it. Yeah, it's beautiful. Love it. I love Scottish and Irish Gaelic, and seeing these guys, by the way, it was just this one guy. A lot of other people were not like this, but this guy was so articulate in what he was experiencing. And it was all of a sudden he became a political Twitter post. I was like, dude, why? Why did you go there? It's like, it's like there's this door opening between people, and you just made it divided just for the sake of make it divided. And by the way, guys, I want him to have the right to do that. That's not the point. But it was almost as if he was upset because his views were going down. So weird. And he threw that in there. And my wife goes, he seemed like someone who was saying that to try because he got a note from production. It was really weird. It was very off. It's off kilter and crazy. St. Patrick's Cathedral in Ireland was burned. Yes, I don't see a way forward for them that doesn't end in unpleasantness. Well, it's going to be unpleasantness for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't get the thinking there. I mean, Ireland is clearly labeled. I would not go in there and start trouble personally. I'm Irish. Music just makes me happy too, right? The brashness and the love of country is still there in Ireland. Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Yeah. I wish the Scottish were a bit more classic Scottish. Yeah. I mean, when I think about cultures I like and great actors and great performers and things like that, that's the stuff that I look at. And because when people get together, I'll tell you something that is sort of interesting to me, and I was thinking about this the other day. I was on a stream and I almost shared this on stream, but it wasn't the right place for it. And not that it was just a kind of a positive sort of thing. I've been listening to a lot of people on streams, and artists say this in their story, right? And then I heard a guy not say this, and I was like, oh yeah. He said, where I was growing up, I met a lot of resistance because I was an artist. And being an artist where I was, like, there's a lot of people who told me, you'll never be an artist, you'll never be able to do that, you're wasting your time and all of that kind of stuff. And I started thinking about that, and I went back and I started thinking about my own childhood. And I guess I grew up in Chattanooga. I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. That much you know. But in one of those places they call a flyover state. Oh, you're a flyover state. Oh, everybody's backwards in Chattanooga. Yeah, we are very good at satire and sarcasm, 100%. That's like I could go on and on. Some of the most brutal jokes and put-downs I've ever heard have been a product of Irish sense of humor. And so here's the thing that got me about it is so I grow up in this place that everybody sort of looks at, and I thought about it, and I said, every single person, almost every single person, of all the things I got comments about when I was growing up in the South, everyone always wanted to know in Chattanooga more about my artwork. I've had people reach out to me and say, we saw your artwork when we were young, and we knew you'd be doing it. You were just making it. I had so much support from every random person I met for my artwork because they were like, that's so cool, you can do that. And I thought, wow, I was so fortunate, but I bet a lot of people don't know that and don't hear that. But there was such an appreciation for comics, fantasy, and art. And I remember I was telling my buddy this, and you can't make this stuff up. I was telling my buddy, who's a science fiction illustrator, about this. And he goes, well, yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. He goes, there was a Chattanooga science fiction convention, and I was the guest of honor one year. And I've never been treated that well in my life at a convention. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, you were in Chattanooga at some point when I was in Chattanooga before we met a couple decades later? Absolutely nuts. But yeah, that's the stuff I enjoy having conversations about. And I'm not going to give any quarter in terms of the whole, people thing and what I think is so important for people to grasp. But man, I grew up, I think my entire life I grew up in a situation where this stuff was, being pumped into things. And I'm going to be, let me think. I'm going to be 50 in September. 50 years on this planet. And it's just, you get to a certain point where you go, no, people are much more interesting than politics. People are much more interesting than all of this stuff. And if you find people who are so captured by an ideology that they cease to be an individual, you really can't have any kind of meaningful conversation with them. And I don't know that it's ever a good idea to try to force it. But what you can do is try to find the people who are having interesting conversations, who aren't captured ideologically, and have conversations with them. Because that's where the good artwork comes from. I don't know what the politics are of certain artists, and I don't care. I do care if they think I have a right to make whatever artwork I want to make, and I do care if they're pro-censorship. That bothers me, because I think artists should value the fact that we're in the one country where that's actually not a thing people have fought for us to have the right to freely express ourselves. So that's the thing that gets me, but I don't care about that other stuff. It's not how I pick people to be around me, Big 5-0, yes indeed. Big 5-0 this year, guys. September 2nd. Atlas Shrugged Day. It's going to be wild. Looking forward to it. Yeah, it's in the DNA Siege Perilous. I believe it, man. Yeah, because it's there's something about it. There's something about all of that stuff. I mean, I grew up, around. I took trips to Austria. I had Austrian family, and I even had a funny realization. I don't know if you guys know. Hey, Mechanoid, what's up, man? How are you doing? Hi, Sean. I'm also Irish, man. Irish people, man. Love you guys. I think you would like the art of Jim Fitzpatrick. I know the work, and yes, I do like it. Illustrating Irish mythology. I like that work. It's great. Illustrating Irish mythology, but of a Muka Japanese illustration look to it, fused with Celtic patterns. Yeah, it's great stuff. I've been the crazy in the gang since elementary school. Yeah, I was definitely the crazy in my gang, too. 100%. 100%. But here's the thing the basic thing I know. Yeah, halfway there indeed. Yeah, halfway there to what? I don't know how much more half I've got left. But so here's the thing that got me, right? Here's the thing that got me about Outlander. And you can judge people for, like, this is the other thing too. Can straight women like what they like and it be okay in that sense? And I mean, like, the stuff that feminism and, culture says you're not allowed to like. Can you, like, the younger generation doesn't care anymore. They're going to be girly and they're going to do what they're going to do. Like, they don't care as much. They've tasted those waters and they swim on. But this is the thing that gets me about it. The story of Outlander is absolutely fascinating because it's a story about a woman who's in a more modern time. And here's what it was. It was because she wanted a guy. And this is how creative people like her work, and she's so brilliant. She wanted a guy in a kilt from Scotland from this time period, but she also wanted to write a story about a female character from this other time period. So that's why she made it a time travel story. She had two really cool ideas, and she put them together. And she writes, she said, I went out with my friends, they said they were sitting there and they were talking about which characters they identified with in my stories. And she said she laughed because she went, I'm all of my characters. Even the villainous characters you hate in that story, I am. And I thought, man, this woman is so smart. Loved hearing her talk. You are 100% in the right place. Yeah, 100%. You don't have to be crazy to be here, but, it helps. Let me see here. Yeah, Cranberry Landers, crazy can be good. Yeah, in the context, hey, dude, yeah, was talking about historically. Yeah, exactly, man. It's so true. We just manage it better. Yeah, and it was all for that fantasy. But here's the thing: she goes back to a time period where, and she meets a guy who is more traditional, where she has less rights, and he finds her attractive, but she has to learn for their survival. The rights are tied to how difficult it is to survive. There's a different level of fighting for your life going on in the time period she goes to, and no one is safe, and it's not easy for anybody. So men and women are having to band together and have certain roles so they're not annihilated by the next person over. Past Master Dan, you are bringing the freaking profile pics, man. Hail chat, hit the like, yes indeed. I like that hair, Bob. That's good stuff. He's rocking the Bob Ross fro, and I love it. I'm telling you, man, it's the way to go. It's the way to go. And so someone says to me, I never thought about, I always thought about writers and creators' biography, but I never thought about this person is this, this person is that. It never mattered to me, So I was saying this to people that it's they were talking about this comic book, this manga book called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And I did research on it because I go, this looks like 80s fashion illustration. And I tracked it down to a Hispanic man who was gay and living in New York City, flamboyant, like a lot of people in the 80s died of AIDS. But his first models were Sigourney Weaver and all of these people who went on to be famous actresses. He did watercolor paintings. And his exact style, his name he goes by, if you Google Antonio Fashion Illustrator 1980s or 70s or whatever, you probably just have to write Fashion Illustrator, you'll go, oh, the creator, Araki, the creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, totally just took his style. That is 100% where that style comes from. Who cares? Who cares what someone's we're supposed to be looking at what people do, Looks like Phil, not speaking of the Irish. Yes, indeed. Yep. Dan Rosa. Yeah, absolutely right. You guys know. Past Master Dan's down. Yeah, Maslow's needs hierarchy, existential threat evokes different responses in women. Yes, exactly right. Yeah, as you would think it would. I mean, with the species and the journey of the species and all of that stuff is really interesting. And I think that, yeah, for me, as an artist, I'm finding that this is so just frustrating and disappointing to me, and it's a compliment, by the way, but it's to this space. How in the world was it that I was in, and you guys know the answer, it's a rhetorical question, but I want you to think about it just in terms of how this question hit my mind over and over again. How is it that I was less free to do what the artwork I wanted to do during my time as a student at the Harvard of Visual Arts colleges, and then the same freedoms were lost even more so to students at that same college and at all the colleges in America? How is it you are less free to create whatever artwork you want to make in places that pride themselves on being about exploration and freedom than you are in Comicsgate? And the answer is simple. Simple. Any place that you're in has to be pro-merit, or you don't have freedom. And it has to be unconditionally free. It can't be attempting to make or not unconditionally, but let's just say creative expression-wise, it has to have the capability to allow you to do what you want to do. And that is a shame, because we have probably had so many artists who were pushed off course by, ideology. And now it's their responsibility. Other people have had it harder than we've had it. And they've had it for sure than college BS. But we have lost a lot of freedoms, and people take for granted that they're not allowed to paint and show what they want to show. And I'll tell you a story, and I don't mind telling this story out of school because it happened and it's real. One of the teachers who I had this experience with, I think I told Bosch this story, and Bosch was shocked. We had an assignment to illustrate someone we knew in our family as a comic book story. And my sister-in-law, who was hilarious, had this character that she would do, and I illustrated some comic book pages of her. And it was just a story about her and being a superhero, and it was really, really funny. And I had it was for my comic book class. And David Mazzucchelli was my comic book teacher at that college. David Mazzucchelli, Batman Year One, you know the guy. And when we got time to we had many instances of this. He's a terrible teacher in terms of censorship and all that stuff. Like, this actually happened before my work was talked about. And I was the only person who knew this person, by the way. This is about someone you knew. And he said, so before we get started, I'd just like to ask the women here in the room, do you think that, how do you feel about him writing a story about this person? In what this story was, which came from her. Like, do you guys see any problems there? Censorship. That happened. And he should be ashamed of himself for that. And that was not the only instance I ran into, by the way. And you drew Batman Year One. Great. You know what I mean? But as a teacher, freedom was basically like, something I guess you reserve for yourself. But it's so disappointing when you see that stuff. And I look back on it and I go, that sucks. Like, and by the way, later he left and I was teaching comics after he left. Yeah, that stuff didn't happen in my classrooms. And as great as it is to people would imagine to be able to say, I had David Mazzucchelli as a teacher. You can be really great at artwork and be a terrible teacher, just like you can be really great at a lot of things and be a terrible parent. They're not mutually exclusive. And there are some artists who make terrible editors. There are some artists who do a lot of things, but yeah. He hated superhero comics with a passion, and didn't want anybody working in superhero comics. It was the weirdest. So he was like, just hated my stuff because I wanted to be a mainstream comic book artist. That's what I came to college for. It was ridiculous. By the way, just for some, what a harpy indeed, but just for some context too, just so you guys understand this. The year I had him as a teacher, I went down to New York and showed my portfolio that I'd been working on that he had been hating to Mark Chiarello, probably one of the most revered art directors in comic book history, who was an amazing artist, colored Hellboy Seed of Destruction. His response to my work was, knowing none of that BS at the time, it's unusual to see this level of draftsmanship in someone your age. He gave me his card and he says, when you get out, I'll see if I get some work for you. It was like, and of course DC Comics was imploding at that time, but I had that card for years, man. But it was like, oh my God, it was so frustrating. So frustrating. So it's not like I was like, oh, when he didn't like my... No, I was really good. I have friends who used to really annoy me. Rocky knows, because he's one of those friends. So, Rocky, if you see this later, I'm talking about you, kid. And I love you, brother, but you know it's true. He used to say, man, your stuff was so good, man. Like, I can't believe you didn't get hired with this stuff, or this never turned into a job. And I was like, I didn't have anybody who was actively... Like, there was no doors opening there, man. They didn't even know the address of Marvel and DC Comics at my college. And the one person who had connections to the college hated superhero comic books and hated me for wanting to draw them. It's like, oh my God. What a nightmare. Ugh, I just look back at that stuff and I'm just like, fine, I'll do it on my own. Which is what I've been doing. It's like, I'm so glad to be here and not have to deal with that BS. I just have no patience for it. Just craziness. But that's how that stuff works, That's how that stuff works. I wasn't exactly mediocre when I was 18, I can tell you that, or 21 at that point, Oh, sorry, is the internet going glitchy right now? I don't think we have any excessive internet usage happening here, but could just be sunspots or something. I don't know. Yeah, Miller's story is good. The art is just not for me. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, I knew it was a big deal, but I'll tell you, most of us who took that... yeah, exactly. I had to, yep. And when I had a great teacher, Brian Stelfreeze was my real mentor. He was fantastic. And he was just such a great teacher. And he was all about drawing whatever... he was not ashamed to be a superhero comic book artist. And he taught me more meaningful things than I learned in that class. I learned almost nothing in that class. It was all just so painful, man. It's so tough to see somebody who has a lot of skill and is so self-involved and so like when you're a teacher. Here's a little secret for about education, right? You're the person who's got to be able to say my word is the word and my word goes and you do this, because we have too many lunatics running the asylum in colleges these days. However, your job is to, when you're a teacher, is to educate people in their skill set. So if someone brings me something they want to do, it can be crap because it's not done well, but it's not my job to tell them what art they are and aren't allowed to make. It's nuts. Brian is the man. Saw him at HeroCon. Yeah, Brian is... He's my mentor. He's... There's a video on my Vimeo of him coming to the college I was at. It was the last time I saw him, actually. Was just before the lockdowns. But I had him come up as a visiting artist to our college. I took him around. It was great, man. But I interned at Gaijin Studios for a summer, but I was down there a ton. And he taught me so much and is just a terrific guy. So he's gold in my book. Yeah, I love that man. He was just awesome. He was awesome. And no, I mean, Brian was funny. The most I ever learned, I'm sitting here going to what they love to think of, and God, it used to be such a better college too when I was going there as a student. Even though I had that experience, I will say the students there were awesome. The friends I made there were great. Everybody was just, we didn't talk all this politics crap. I mean, it's like, God, who goes to college to talk about politics? You go to college to meet people and to just God, have fun and learn and make artwork. It's like you're at art school and you're miserable. What's wrong with you? It's like, gosh, get out. There are cheaper ways to be miserable. It's nuts, man. But it was such a fun time. But Brian was responsible for so much of the things you're seeing now that I do. Absolutely. It's like my self-taught, a little bit of painting stuff here from, maybe a teacher or two, but really Brian was the biggest. I mean, I've always been driven. I was drawing without art classes. That's how I got into that college, by the way. So it's not like I was growing up in a school and place where I was doing artwork all the time. I didn't take any art classes in high school. People find that shocking, but all the art classes were anti-representational work. They were all fine arts. So I was not interested. And then I got into this art school when I was this Harvard of art school at the time had the highest rejection rate, and I got in when had been 17 for 2 months my senior year of school without sending any transcripts, just on the strength of my portfolio. It's like I remember going into the guidance office and saying, I need you to send my transcripts because I already got into college. It's freaking hilarious. Yeah, I had a trunk line get by ATT, and now have temporary service until, oh gosh, that's rough. Yeah, like working in a coal mine. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like, this is the crazy thing. You get rewarded for merit, and then when egos get involved, I've come to pay really close attention to this, and I wish I had started doing this sooner, but I needed all the experiences I have to be able to notice this. But whenever somebody seems like they're uncomfortable with things going well for you, get away from them. Don't help them. Don't do anything. I had to learn the hard way not to help people who are really not on your side. Not, on your side is a dumb way of putting it. People who are just completely self-obsessed. They have nothing to offer. And I was shocked at how many times when I was teaching very mediocre to incompetent faculty, I would just look at them, and I had this term I used. I was like, oh, you must have been mama's special boy, huh? You know, like you have to be the smartest person in the room, even when you're not. I love being in rooms where people are smarter than me and listening, but man, you'd be surprised that how people, like, there's people who physically can't take someone else being successful and things going well for them. Get them out of your life. That probably describes mainstream comics editorial. Yeah, Sean did it the dream way, yes. Right, yes, the politics. Yes, exactly. The politicans. Yeah, my least favorite kind of politics is office politics. It's the worst. Yeah, it's the worst. Office politics are death, man. They're horrible. I should show you guys, like, some of the stuff. I have all this artwork that I have from when I was a kid, like, all the way up. I show this stuff to people, and people are just like, what? Like, what? I worked so hard, man, on this stuff. And it's great to see, by the way, it's great to see Matthew here in the chat. For those of you guys who don't know, I'm going to be at For the Fans Fest, which is coming up very, very soon, in October. So we're getting there. And let me see if I can do this here. Edit, copy, and then I'm going to do this. I did this last time, but I undid it because I'm an idiot. So let me see here. I want to do... Hang on for a second while I get this video together. 1 second.
Welcome to Chanton.
Hours and hours and hours and hours of editing, handwork, putting together a promotional video, and volunteering my time, my skill to do things just like I've been doing since I got into CG, since I've been here. And that's the thing about it is I like my new colleagues a lot more, and they're a lot more helpful and useful for me and my family's well-being, as are you guys who support me directly. But that was, I reached out to Matt, who's been in the chat, and I said, Matt, I want to make a promo video for you. Does that sound good? And he sent me the logo over. That's not AI stuff. Like, I just did like really simple frame animation for the bubbling chemicals and the electricity and all that stuff. A lot of handwork, a lot of putting that stuff together. I know, brother, I know it, and I appreciate you. That's the main thing. I appreciate you too, man. That's the way it is. And you guys have seen my stuff before. You guys have seen the trailers I do. All of the skill sets that I put together. I want you guys to be excited to go there because I'm excited to go there. I want you guys, and Matt can drop the link in the chat, to go to the Indiegogo where you can get stuff, exclusive stuff ahead of time, rooms and things like that, guys. I want this con. We have said forever, and I'm getting excited. You guys are making me get excited about this. We have said forever that the people in our space vote with their wallets. Look at those of you guys who are channel members here. Look at those of you guys who send super chats. That stuff pays for brushes. It pays for material. This stuff does not run on pixie dust. And the biggest thing about Comicsgate is it is a place where people who back books, spend money, support artists so that this thing works, so that we can do this stuff that takes decades of skill, so much work to do. And I want people who don't go to this convention to say to themselves, like, or who say, oh, I want to be in a convention if he's there or this person's there or whatever else. That stupid stuff, that stupid gatekeeping. I want them to see that we have the audience that is the most motivated, the audience that supports us financially the most, You guys are motivated backers. You're not just people who hang out and this is like just, oh, it's like I can say I like this thing on Twitter and then someone's going to like it. You guys spend time, you're here, you spend money, you support this, and I want it to be an awesome convention for everybody who goes there and has a table, for all of you guys. And here's the coolest thing about it. I don't know about you guys, but when I go to comic conventions, one of the most frustrating things can be that I go to a comic convention and I will see... I'll go to a comic convention or I'll go to a science fiction convention or any place, and everything there that's cool I already have. So I'm seeing things and I'm going, oh, but I got that. I was looking for something I don't have. What's so great about this is that we're going to be bringing stuff there. Everything we do is new. Everything that we bring is new. There's not like it's like, oh, I've already got that. Chances are you don't. And so we bring our books there and it's like, oh, I don't have that cover. Or even more importantly, I don't have that like particular thing that's being made for this convention. It's going to be awesome. And the location is awesome. And I don't think people realize how great the location is. Like there's a Gordon Ramsay steaks in there. There's like there's 3 bars. I forget, I think it was 18 restaurants. All of the stuff is on site. It's a really cool place to be in. And the convention area is fantastic. And I just wanted to make something that really showed off what it was. You know what I mean? And I hope you guys are going to be there. I don't go to a lot of conventions. You know, I was just thinking about all those people who, when I'm newlywed and I was busy and I was starting teaching and all of that stuff. But I did design and border design, this really ornate, beautiful border design on that was used for the Harry Potter trading card game in the 90s. It was one of my first jobs. And because Wizards of the Coast always credits creators on it, it says, you know, artwork by so-and-so and Shanthan Jetty. It's one of my first credited works you can find was on Harry Potter. And I was thinking, so many people used to write me and ask if they could send me cards for me to autograph. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. Like, I mean, I did a couple, but sometimes they just show up at your house and you're like, how did you get my address? It was really creepy. Sorry, I'm an introvert. And I always tell people, if people want to buy a bunch of Harry Potter cards and bring them to me to sign while I'm there, they might be able to flip them on eBay. I don't know if people are still completists with it. But I don't sign a lot of stuff and I don't make a lot of appearances. I sign the books that you guys back on Indiegogo. And that's just one of the things I've done. The Flash Gordon thing, you know, any of the Starship Troopers issues. We've all done a lot of different stuff. I mean, Dan Lawless with Barbed Wire and all that stuff. Like, there's so much cool stuff. My God, the Thrawn trilogy adaptations by Mike Barron. And so when you look at that trailer, one of the things I love to show about that trailer is the logo for Mike Barron on the airplane. I designed the logo, I put it on an airplane, and I animated it. When you see the Chuck Dixon part, I tracked down Chuck Dixon sketches, I did a slight animation on it, and I built all that stuff out from hand. Just because I wanted to have something that was fun, and Chuck does these little sketches on his sketchbook, you know, for what do you call markups when he's signing books. So that was the thing. All right, Half the Balance. Aaron, Sunday show is on. Awesome. Tell him I said hello. Great show as always. Have a great night. Yes, indeed. You too, my friend. Take care. Yes, and so I wanted to do stuff where people see it and think it's cool, and it was the same thing with the Shane Davis Tiger. It's the same thing with all of that stuff. And so that's kind of what this space is for me. And I'm always amped. What's up, Blackjack, man? It's great to see you. Hail, I'm late. No worries, man. Always great to see you. Hit the like and pull up a chair, man. And so, yeah, for me, that's the stuff that motivates me when I'm working, is to try to make things exciting. What is up, Warzord? Oh my gosh, the board time lord. That was hard to get. I couldn't always find all the words. Hey, Ashanth, I found you a YouTuber that is EJ, but done right. Drelix Comics. I have not heard of that. Very cool. And great to see you, my friend. I just realized I didn't click on it. I just read it. Great to see you, my friend. Let me see. Was a great trailer. I bet it'll be a great convention. I think it's going to be a blast. I think it's going to be a blast because I know there's going to be an exclusive thing on the campaign, so make sure you're following that campaign on Indiegogo. John Malin's going to be putting together a pinup swimsuit book, and I'm going to have a pinup of Molly from SPRINGBALL in it. That's what I'm working on right now, so that will be something that's available. And yeah, we're ready, man. We're ready. If you guys will show up, Matt's built it. We're gonna go. You guys want to go? Let's have a party. Let's do what we do. Let's hang out, talk comics, and all of that cool stuff that we love. Because it's the list of people who are going to be at this show, people like Graham and everybody. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. So disappointed I won't be able to make it for the Fans Fest. I'm hoping next year. Awesome. Great. Yeah, it's going to totally be worth doing, and you're going to see a lot of cool stuff coming out of there. I know we're talking about doing some live streams in person, like maybe a Hard Art live stream or a King's live stream or something like that in person, and you guys will be able to do, be in the chat and stuff like that, I hope. But we'll see how it goes. It's a lot of logistics right now, but it's really coming together, and it was really fun to do. It was really fun to do something to get people excited about it, because I do think it's going to be an exciting convention. And I showed I was sketching the trailer together, and I showed it to it was like tons and tons. It was like crazy work. And I was building it together, and I showed it on stream, and Matt said, he's like, I'm not sure about the music. And then I was like, all right, let me find some music that I think is going to be more what we're looking for, and that's what it was. Yeah, there's a whole panel and live stream room going to stop. Yep, going nonstop the whole con. There you go, right from the horse's mouth. Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate that, man. Shonthon Kings, you said you were a fan of Earl Norm. Yes. Have you ever checked out his Rampaging Hulk covers? Yes, they're awesome. All his stuff is. He is so good, man. I'm going to do a post on... that reminds me, I wanted to do a post on him on the Patreon, because I can't show some of the artwork. Or maybe I already did it. God, my brain is gone. But yeah, he is great. He did so much incredible work. And all those guys did, man. They were just throwing down. All those guys were just throwing down. Such good stuff. Yeah, I love that work, and that's why I know I've shown a lot of Samson Pollen on streams as well. Samson Pollen is another great artist I love. Mort Kunstler is a great artist, but really kind of like, more of like the guy stuff, which is really fun, that kind of Pulp Fiction. And I guess I've been thinking a lot about the idea that comic books, if we're entertainers and we're, serious about, the art form, then it's worth exploring what you would do if you had freedom. And I know, it's funny, I know Graham had talked about he's had a lifelong dream to do a romance comic, and I was like, that's so cool, I want to see it. What is up, Turhiki? I feel like I haven't seen you in ages. It's been literally, you just said it. That's awesome, man. It's been literal ages since I caught a live stream. Hail, Shonth chat. Hail to you, brother. It's great to see you, and it has been ages. My God, man. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Yeah, Matt's putting together something great, and I'm excited. I'm excited to be a part of it. I will be lurking for a while, Shonth, in case I miss the end. Have a good evening. You too, sir. Thank you, Cranberry Landers. Thank you for being a channel member. I appreciate you. Miss the end. Have a good evening, Shonth. Wish your family the best. Same to you, my friend. And ciao, everyone. Yes, indeed. Yeah, Ken Barr is another one. Yeah, those guys could throw down with their work. They absolutely could throw down with their work. And do you see how, like, what I'm trying to do, I don't know if you guys can see this because the perspective isn't there yet, but what I'm trying to do is, this is the foreground of kind of Cairo, and it's like a cheated shot. It's not like a real thing because I'm approaching it much more like a 30s or 20s sort of movie. But then you see like the buildings right there, all of the architecture of these buildings going off into space, and then you see this, everything is just dwarfed by the pyramids. There's this guy who does videos called Pro Walks, and it's called Pro Walks Tours. And Pro Walks Tours, he goes to different locations on foot with a GoPro and a Steadicam mount and walks around. And one of the places he walks around is the pyramids and the Sphinx of Egypt. And boy, there is nothing like being on foot and a slow walking with no cuts around the pyramids to give you a sense of the grandeur and scope. And that was a huge influence on what I wanted to do with this comic. I'd been thinking about the idea, then I saw that, and I go, I actually know what the landscape is around the pyramids now. And I have reference I can go to. It is so cool. It's such a great video. Later, if I don't chat with you, Cran, yes, exactly right. There it is. Beautiful. Yeah, it's great to see you guys, man. And it's so, yeah, I mean, all that stuff, like the internet definitely opens up a ton of opportunities for people who are putting up stuff that are travel vlogs and all that kind of stuff. That stuff is great. And so if you really want to know what it's like to walk through a neighborhood, in Ireland, or you want to know what it's like to walk through, a neighborhood in Scotland, that guy has done some incredible videos. Incredible videos. And they really give you a sense of stories you could tell. Because some of the best stories I think can happen in, in like, the country areas or the alleyway, if you want to talk about, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which starts out with a door in an alley that's kind of abandoned. So yeah, that's the stuff for me that I'm the most excited about. Really cool stuff. But yeah, I tell you what, I'm excited about the genre opportunities that there are, and excited about, where things can go, and for however long I have on this planet, I intend to make artwork that is interesting and something that is not the product of anything other than attempting to entertain and bring beauty and put it in front of your eyes. Like, that's the goal. And so that's my plan going forward. That's what I want to do. And I appreciate you guys for making it possible with your support. It's never unappreciated, and it never goes unnoticed. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to wrap up because we're at 2 hours, and I want to also give you a sneak peek. I'm going to cover it up because I don't have sticky tack on it. But I want to show you where I was on the creature painting too, because I've been working on this as I pack up Nosfero books. So this is Mark Music Obsession's piece that he's getting for the head sketch of the creature. I'll probably be working on that on another stream, but I just felt like sketching today because it's been a long, long weekend, and I needed to kind of just sketch and scribble to put things together. So there you go. Lots of fun and crazy stuff heading your way soon. Thank you guys so much. So from the heart of Lovecraft Country, the birthplace of American religious liberty, my name is Jonathan Jetty. You've been watching Jonathan Jetty Art. Speak easy, stay gold, keep the faith, and peace be with you guys. Give nihilism no quarter, and thank you for being here, guys. I appreciate your support. Back Springball. Get ready for Nosfero, which I cannot wait to get all that settled with the replacement books I need. And then we're going to be ready to rock and roll. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. So those of you guys who can make it for the Fans Fest in October. And I'm sure I will see you again on a stream very, very soon. Take care, guys. All right, I'll see you soon. Let me see who's. All right, guys. Really glad I could say hello. Absolutely, Turkey. Me too. Great to see you, Warzard. How are you doing, man? I hope it was a great day and enjoyed the stream. Feel free to go back and watch it if you missed it later. Chat Cran, good. Well said. All right, Matthew, I'm glad it was well said. I was thinking about it. Thank you for being a channel member, my friend. Really appreciate it. Gosh, I got to update the credits. I don't know if I have you in the credits yet. I think I do, but I haven't updated the credits in a bit because it's been slow on the channel, so I have not even thought about it, but I've got to make sure I have you there. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Jimmy Mello, great stream as always, and be safe, everyone. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. All right, guys, here are the credits. Thank you so much. I promise I'll be updating these again real soon, but I think everybody should be in it. Take care, guys. Bye.
You now enter the domain of paint and canvas. The only limits are those of the imagination. You now enter the domain of paint and canvas. The only limits are those of the imagination. New possibilities